What's going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Live DraftKings breakdown for Friday's 12-game main slate. James, we are ending the week with a banger here. 12 games. Some pretty interesting matchups here for 12 games. We always talk about on the podcast. It's all about the luck of the rotation. What kind of draw do you get on these slates here? Are you hitting the top parts of rotations, the middle, the ends? Well, even though we got 12 games on this slate, pitching really to me is the story. I think you're going to see some pretty consolidated rostership at the starting pitching position. And then from there, it's all about how you're stacking your lineups.
Yeah. And to your point, like pitching kind of stinks. Like there are, some notable names. One name only pitches every 6th day, and we've only seen him twice in major league level. One has a funky delivery. One's 40 years old. The chalkiest pitcher maybe of the slate is a guy that you and I talked about extensively on the podcast that's like not as good as his teammates and sometimes is made out to be. So it's definitely an interesting slate. There's some good pitchers that are in really bad spots and not going to be very popular options. So it's going to be an interesting slate how pitching kind of breaks down. And fortunately, the best man for the job was on the job today. John, that's you. You were on the MLB DFS playbook over on Fantasy Alarm.
I did do the old playbook today. That's available now over at Fantasy Alarm. If you're not yet a member of our All Pro package family, there, promo code down there at the bottom, MLB 50. 50% off your first 6 months. It's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months. That takes you through the first month of the NFL season at this point here. You get access to all of our DFS content, not just MLB, but NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs are still going on, PGA, NASCAR, MMA, nice little MMA card this weekend. Mike Iannone on there in the playbook, got that out already. Of course, and then the NFL season kicks in. So you get all of our premium content. Plus, you get access to our premium Discord where myself, James Grande, Justin Vreeland, Colby Conway, Howard Bender, we're all in there answering questions right up to roster lock for you guys, getting you set to go here for the evening. So got to sign up, got to join now. No better time. $20 a month. Can't really beat that for the first 6 months using promo code MLB50. James, 12 games here. Not too much weather really to pay attention to. There may be some slight rain around the Washington-Cleveland game, but other than that, no real strong winds. Maybe we have a little bit there in Kansas City of 10, 15 miles an hour, blowing out slightly. LA, Boston here. I live just outside of the city. It's okay. It's not really as windy that it should be enough to sort of make a difference in this game. So we lucked out there, right? Sometimes we get these monster slates and then there's just, weather all over the country that we got to kind of sit there and monitor. But for the most part today, weather is looking pretty clear.
Well, if there's any potential rain in Washington, that means the game might be canceled, right? We've seen that.
I feel like they fixed that a little bit. I think the league might have complained.
Like, hey guys, next time that there's no rain in the forecast, let's not cancel games, or especially when it doesn't rain. Let's hold off. But yeah, a little joke there for anyone who's played MLB DFS for the last few seasons. Good night of weather. I was hoping for a little warmer night in Boston there, John. 50s, I don't love because I did like the hitting environment in that game. Because when we were doing the MLB DFS podcast this morning, we had talked about what the best game environment was in terms of over-under, and it was Boston, LA. Well, that total is now, been bet down a little bit, and I think it's because the colder weather, 9.5 to 9. We did see, Cleveland and Washington make it up to 9.5. That's been bet up. Yep. The under is actually favorited there, minus 120. I see in some spots, minus 115. So, pretty close to, hit 9.5. But there's like nothing else that really stands out. There's a bunch of games with 9. Atlanta KC has 9 over under. Pittsburgh St. Louis is a 9 over under. Milwaukee, San Diego.
We're used to being shell-shocked by Coors Field slates where there's 10.5, 11, and 11.5. Not really the situation here. And there's so many middling pitchers. It's hard for really – and the matchups too. So it's not just that there's middling pitchers. It's also like there's no obvious dominant spot here. There's a couple, that we're definitely going to be keying in on here today. But there isn't that like world. There's no Patrick Corbin on the slate, right? I mean, there could be. There's some bad pitchers on this slate here, but generally when you have those absolute trash cans, Jose Urena, Patrick Corbin, when they're on the mound, those games generally have the higher point spread. But you said right before we jumped on air that the Seattle Mariners scratched Marco Gonzalez for tonight, right? So either they're going bullpen game. You mentioned that Tommy Milone is at least expected to start that game. I didn't know that man was still in baseball, honestly. I did not know Tommy Milone was still in baseball. So, if that's the truth, at least it keeps a lefty on the mound for Seattle, But what was the one thing we talked about with Marco Gonzalez was the reverse splits. Well, there are no splits with Tommy Milone. He's just trash at this point. So, you can pretty much play whom you want for Colorado, most likely now. Whereas we were, maybe a little less bullish on that Rockies lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Milone officially announced a starter for Seattle. He made one start in AAA this year, 5 scoreless innings in the PCL. So maybe Tommy Milone.
I'm not really. That doesn't wow me. The man has had a over 6 ERA now for like 6 years at Major League level. So.
Maybe Tommy Milone, 36-year-old, R.A. Dickey did it. Why can't Tommy Milone?
2015 was the last time he had an ERA under 4.7. So
maybe Tommy Milone developed a knuckleball since the last time we've seen him.
Honestly, at that point, why not? Why not literally?
Well, he keeps getting jobs. Well, he doesn't need to. He keeps getting jobs
because he's a lefty. So they just have him come out of the bullpen. But last year he appeared in 7 games. He gave up 10 runs on 14 hit in 16 innings. The season before that, 6 games for Toronto, 10 runs, 20 hits in 14 innings. The man is basically a human T-ball machine, right? So, if Malone's out there for anything more than a couple of innings, you got to think, fire up CJ Cron tonight, right? I know there's some people out there watching. They love their CJ Cron versus a lefty. Tommy Milone is your spot for that tonight.
I wish, to your point, I don't disagree. I just wish this literally was any other team facing Tommy Milone. Other than Oakland, 28 other teams could have been better in this spot than Colorado. Nevertheless, Tommy Milone, 4K. I guess you're not going there, John? I mean, we're pivoting to pitching, I'm assuming right now anyway. So 4K, Tommy Milone, favorite pitcher of the slate?
Not making my player pool today.
Okay.
Surprisingly not.
Surprisingly.
But yes, we are going to move to pitching. Listen, Kodai Senga is obviously the cover of a lot of content over at Fantasy Alarm today. He's on the cover of a lot of content across the industry. On a 12-game slate, to say that somebody's going to be 60% rostered, it would feel like, maybe there's a lot of options. No, I think Kodai Senga today is at least 60% rostered. The matchup is too perfect. He's a monster favorite in Vegas. They're minus 225 or something like that for the Mets to win. Caprillions on the mound for Oakland. That man has been at ERA over 10 in 2 starts this year. And you're looking at this board. There's a few other guys, but Senga's the lock and load play here tonight.
So I don't necessarily disagree that he is the best pitcher on the slate. I am just a little uncertain about the ownership being that high because first, it's a 12-game slate. And second, he's 10.4K. And usually, that is not Kodai Senga has made 2 starts in Major League Baseball, and this is a great spot to continue on, the upwards trajectory that he's been on. But you are kind of handicapping yourself, especially depending on which direction you're going to go.
Maybe.
I don't think it's 60%. I would say half of that, and he's still probably the number 1 or 2 highest rostered pitcher on the slate. But if
he's 30%, I take that as a win in tournaments. I do.
I mean, in cash games, I think he is the highest owned pitcher by a long margin. In tournaments, I think it's probably around 30%. That would be my guess.
If that's the case, I'll be more than happy with a 30% Senga because I just look at the other starters here and I think that there's some questions, around the board. And that's not to say we like some of these guys for sure. Nestor Cortez tonight against Minnesota at home. The at home is the worry spot for me. Yep. Anytime a team's in Yankee Stadium, we just saw what happened last night. Now, I don't think Minnesota's going to go blitz Nestor Cortez like they did Brito last night, but they proved that they can. They proved that they can put up a lot of runs, and they have guys in that lineup that do hit left-handed pitching. Correa's back. They have Buxton. Sure, you want to look at that lineup, and maybe it's not the scariest thing in the world, but it's good enough to put 11 runs on the board yesterday in 2 innings. So, there's that aspect to it. Charlie Morton's at $9,100. Again, we like him for the strikeout potential that he could certainly bring. We look at Kansas City and the numbers they have versus right-handed pitching this year and that strikeout numbers. But what's the one thing we've talked a lot about Kansas City this year was just like how unlucky a lot of their guys have been to start that season. Bobby Witt had a batting average in balls in play of 120. Pasquantino, sort of the same thing. These guys are hitting the ball. They're just getting out, and then they're striking out a lot. Well, now you're starting to see some of these bats start to wake up now. Charlie Morton is decent as he's been. He's also definitely getting up there in age. He's had some inconsistencies in his starts this year. Great against San Diego, the 5 innings, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts. Love to see the 104 pitches there. He's had some tough go. This is definitely his best, easiest opponent to this point. But we felt that way about Nathan Eovaldi the other day, and Nathan Eovaldi gave up 10 runs. So, I don't know if Nathan Eovaldi is much worse than Charlie Morton. So to me, there's a lot of questions, I think, at this top tier of the starting pitcher position, where I think just Senga makes the most sense.
Yeah, again, it's not like disputed. Like I'm not going to dispute any of that because it's just a fact. But like we have 24 offenses, some in amazing spots, and they're not that cheap. Like the Guardians look like they're going to be pretty popular tonight. Just right. Like based on what we see from the draft forecaster, Guardians, Mets, Rays. They're not all that they're not all that cheap. Like if you want to play Jose Ramirez, he's $5,700. If you want to play Mets, Alonso is 54. Lindor is 47. If you want to play Wander Franco, he's $5,900. Like those 3 teams in good spots are pretty expensive. So like that's why I think Senga is not as highly rostered tonight as you make it out, as you expected. But again, I agree. There's definitely questions with Morton. I mean, a lot of traffic right now. And if we talked about on the podcast this morning, Casey has a lot of ability to steal bases and put themselves in very good run scoring position. Right. And that could obviously tally up against Morton, who has been getting up in age for like 3 years now, So yeah, I definitely agree that there's question marks at the top. I'm not so worried about Nestor. There was underlying things to not like about Johnny Brito last night. As much as we did like him, there was also the other side of the coin. That obviously panned out for anyone using twin stacks. But Senga's the top play up here. Morton and Cortez are both fine. Senga's the best play. But it is something worth noting. Like using Senga definitely limits you getting to some of these top offenses.
Twins lineup tonight. Byron Buxton's leading off. Carlos Correa hitting second. Donovan Solano, Jose Miranda, Ryan Jeffers. They're kind of your top half of that lineup. So you get past the first few, and it definitely evens up. Volpe leading off for your Yankees tonight. We'll talk about shortstop, obviously, a little bit later. Let's go work our way down this pitching. In the mid-tier, you and I, again, kind of looked at this. There's a few okay spots. Garcia against Texas is okay. I'm not the biggest Garcia fan. I think that he sometimes gets lumped into Framber Valdez and Christian Javier in that group, but really like Garcia, Urquidy, like the back half of this Houston rotation is kind of meh, to me. They're okay. You can get you a win, but he doesn't have the same strikeout upside. He's kind of just as wild at times. So not my favorite spot. Sandoval gets Boston here. Boston's lineup has, again, Refsnyder's hitting third tonight for the Red Sox. They got a lefty in Verdugo leading off. They have Devers back in the lineup. But, I mean, this is the second half of this Red Sox lineup. Enrique Hernandez is hitting fifth. Christian Arroyo's hitting sixth. Christian Cassis, because he's a lefty, down hitting seventh. Connor Wong is hitting 8th, and Yu Chang is hitting 9th.
Yu Chang.
Rafael Devers is cleanup, fine. We know Devers can hit lefties, but like Verdugo, Turner, Refsnyder, Devers is your top 4. Yoshida's still out. There's some injuries with Boston. No Duvall still. Sandoval, to me, is someone that, especially with the game total kind of dipping back down, Sandoval is becoming a little bit more appealing to me. Even a guy that hasn't put up a bunch of strikeout numbers this year, we know he's a better strikeout pitcher than he's shown. And Arroyo, Casas, Wong, Chang, you're going to tell me those 4 guys, there's not going to be 2 to 3 strikeouts among them total in this game. So give me some Sandoval here at 85.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Like with the game total dipping, because the colder weathers too, like that is obviously playing a factor. I find it incredibly interesting because when we talked on the podcast, I immediately went to, who did I go to? I went to
Waka?
No, I just had Luis Garcia.
Oh, Garcia.
And you shot it down, and like you just articulated, he is checking in at one of the highest rosterships on the slate. And we've talked about Texas's lineup ad nauseum for the last week, at least since Corey Seager went down. They're missing Seager, they're missing Garver, they're batting Josh H. Smith second again tonight, John. And I get the love for Garcia, but then you bring up Sandoval thing, looking at Boston's lineup, there's like a 27% rostership difference between Luis Garcia and Patrick Sandoval.
Yeah.
And I get it that Sandoval has, like you said, there hasn't been strikeouts. There has historically been strikeouts for Patrick Sandoval, and people are we just ignoring it because of a 2-game sample? Is that like what's being done here? I mean, I'm just confused by the discrepancy in ownership there, really. And Waka can be lumped into that same category, right? Because Waka and Garcia are right behind Senga and Cortez in terms of rostership. Why isn't Patrick Sandoval, who the last 2 years, 23.7% K rate, the year prior, 25.9% K rate, why is Sandoval so much lower in terms of rostership than the other 2? When Sandoval has been just as good, just not minus the strikeouts, but that's coming, like positive regression on the way.
Yeah, and when you look at, if you go to I'm looking at DraftKings Sportsbook right here. They list Garcia in the strikeout prop at 5.5, but it's minus 150 on the under. You look at Michael Waka, they got him at 5.5, but it's minus 135 on the under. And then you go to Patrick Sandoval, it's 4.5, but it's minus 115 on the over. So, at the very least, you're looking at the Vegas odds here, and it's like, all right, they both kind of think they're going to finish around 5 strikeouts, but it feels more likely Sandoval goes more than 5 strikeouts. Well, Garcia, Waka maybe go under their 5 strikeouts. I'm with you there. And if you're telling me that there's that big of a difference in the rostership, you're playing tournaments today. If you're going to eat the chalk monster that is Nestor Cortez or Kodai Senga, you want to find yourself different in certain areas. That would be definitely, I think, one of the spots to go to there.
So to wrap this in a bow, and I am in tournaments, I'm going to Patrick Sandoval. That's just kind of where I've settled on, because there is right now, he is like, there's 24 pitchers on the slate, right? 23 real pitchers and Tommy Milone. Well, 22 real pitchers and Tommy Milone and James Caprillion. So there's 22 actual pitchers and then 2 others. Patrick Sandoval is the 6th lowest rostered expected pitcher on tonight's slate. What are we missing with Rob Refsnyder hitting 3rd?
Listen, Jeffrey Springs yesterday had like 5 strikeouts in 3 innings, basically, before he got hurt. Again,
Boston has the 9th highest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching this year, 25.7%.
And you have to remember, for 2 weeks, this lineup was actually a little bit better than it is now. Yoshida was in there, Duvall was in there. It is abysmal at this moment. So, that's kind of where we're at pitcher. We like Sandoval. I think Waka's in play, Garcia's in play, but if you're looking for tournaments here, Sandoval, I think, is a guy that we're going to kind of key in on. You mentioned on the stream last night, you like Justin Steele as a talent. Yes. He's faced Milwaukee, he's faced Texas, he's given a 1 run in 12 innings. striking out 11. Are you feeling dangerous?
No,
With
not
Justin
today.
Steele? No?
Not
Okay.
today. No. I mean, look, I do like the pitcher quite a bit. But like there are a few offenses that can hit more home runs than the Dodgers, and they hit home runs in freaking bunches, you know? So, um, like I would just rather take shots on other guys. I'm not a big Noah Syndergaard fan. He's getting a little ownership. Probably would rather take a shot on him. Probably would rather take a shot on Tyler Wells. The
Yeah, the White
rest of the
Sox lineup
position,
getting Eloy Jimenez back, does that change any feelings for Tyler Wells here tonight
yeah,
on you?
yeah. I
A
mean,
little bit?
yeah, it just doesn't feel necessary to get to. There's just not a lot of like really solid value, and that's also why another reason why I don't know if Senga is like overly owned, because I think a lot of Waka Garcia, Waka Nestor, Waka insert and other mid-tier pitcher are
Right.
just like the combinations, because there's not like anyone clear cut. Like good luck taking your shot on getting 2021 version of Jose Barrios back, because that just doesn't seem like he's ever returning.
Our guy Serge in the chat here wants to know who the core pitcher is. We like Singer a lot up top. Nestor Cortez is certainly going to be in play for a lot of lineups today. I like Charlie Morton for strikeout potential there, and then in the mid tier, we just settled on Sandoval as our core guy in that group,
and probably Waka. In tournaments, Sandoval.
Yeah.
In cash, if you're playing on a 2-pitcher site, Surge, happy Friday to you, my friend. I would say that Michael Wacha is probably the SB2.
Yep, I'm with you there. Our guy also in the chat saying that he's got Senga in all of his lineups. He feels good with the bats. Yeah, listen, I think we're going to start going over the positions here and break it all down for you. I think there's enough value. You can get 2 spend ups.
That's our man. That's our man.
Ice Brew. Yeah. I know. Ice Brew's in there. I'll say this, and I wrote this up in the playbook that I did today. We often look at stacks and you think, all right, 3, 4, sometimes 5-man stacks. Tonight's a night where, like, I think a 2-man stack can certainly be in play because you're going to find some of that value at certain positions, and you can use that to your advantage to spend down places. And then instead of trying to fit in a bunch of high-priced guys like you mentioned on these teams, play 2 of them and then fill the other position with a value guy, and it will kind of help you go in that direction. So let's go on over to the catcher spot here. A lot of catchers in play. We talk all the time. If you want to spend up on catcher, you can. Tonight feels like a slate where that's going to be a little bit tough. But if you're stacking like Baltimore, for instance, you're going to have to play Adley Rutschman, right? It would be silly to stack Baltimore against Clevenger without Rutschman in your lineup there. So, he, for me, is my top spend up at the catcher position. And then I've told you a lot. I'm just going all the way down. I don't even care if he gets a 0. Ryan Jeffers for me against Nestor Cortez is where I want to go. He's $2,500. He hits in the middle of the lineup. He has a little bit of power. I'm going Rutschman or I'm going Jeffers for me personally. How are you feeling about the catcher spot today?
I mean, the catcher spot stinks per usual. That's not breaking news, but just typically a bad position and one that we're not going to need to spend a lot of time on. I like both those guys. I like Jonah Heim at $3,100 for a cheap home run because Luis Garcia isn't as good as his ownership suggests. The ownership is what the ownership is. I don't necessarily buy it. I wish Francisco Alvarez was in the lineup. He is not. The Mets released it's Thomas Nino again. So, can't use him. I don't think you can use a Mets catcher. I also would throw dart at Christian Bethancourt. We talked about it last night. Like Jose Barrios has been terrible. Mm-hmm. Christian Bethancourt has been pretty good lately. 3 of his last 4 games, he's put up 9 or more DraftKings points, and in 2 of those, he's put up 16 or more. So, other than the 2 guys you mentioned, Bethancourt and Jonah Heim.
Yep, I like it there. Philip Day in chat. He's stacking Mariners with J-Rod and Suarez. Wants to know, would we go Morton, France, McCormick, Sandoval, Rizzo, Teoscar? I think we just kind of talked about it. We like Sandoval a lot tonight. I have Rizzo in the playbook. Teoscar is fine for me as the 3rd man into that stack. James, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, Teoscar was like an absolute killer against lefties last year. So I lean Teoscar over Ty France, especially in that game
Yep,
stack.
that's how I feel about it. So go ahead, rock Sandoval, Rizzo, and Teoscar with that stack. I'm a big fan of Seattle stack here tonight as well. Over at first base, we talk a lot about it. This matchup with the Mets, Caprillion on the mound here, and how bad he's been. Pete Alonso at $5,400. We talked heavily about him on the podcast this morning. 6 home runs already on the season. The power is pretty legit, as we know. One of the top stacks potentially of the day is the New York Mets. Is he your number one first baseman today?
Yes. I got nothing else.
Like up for it, James.
Caprillion is as, I mean, at one point I was very excited for him because he was a former Yankees prospect. Could not be happier. He's not anymore. Like he doesn't get righties out. He doesn't get lefties out. He has 11.17 ERA this year. 583 xFIP suggests, things aren't not going to get better. He's allowed almost 4 home runs per 9 innings. Like, there's not a lot to like. On the plus side of this, John, is that, or the downside is that the ballpark is obviously a factor. The plus side is that James Caprillion allows a 47% fly ball rate. I know it's a big ballpark, but like the more big time fly balls he allows, the more likely 1 or 2 or 3 are going to leave the yard. So the Mets are going to put the ball a lot in the air a lot tonight, and I think we're seeing multiple home runs. And I'm not going to call multiple home runs from Pete Alonso, but I would not be surprised if Pete Alonso at the end of the night has a double double.
I wouldn't obviously be too shocked on that either. I mentioned CJ Cron earlier. If 2 of the last 3 years, righties have hit over 350 with a 900 plus OPS off of Tommy Milone. Again, we don't know how long he's going to go, but you said he threw 5 innings in his most recent minor league start. So at least maybe has the longevity to stay on the field there. So Cron fits in. We're always recommending Matt Olson in tournaments, just ridiculous power potential in that spot. We do like Ty France, if you want to go that way of your stack. It just all depends on how you fit them in. So that's fine. And then when we get into the mid-tier here, to me, Rizzo's a guy I'm plugging in. He kills it at home. He's hitting over 400 at home this year. All 3 of his home runs are at home. He had 2 yesterday. Anthony Rizzo at 4,400 is my top first baseman in the mid-range.
Yeah, and I like Louis Varland, but Louis Varland is not someone that we're like scared to stack against. I think the Yankees could be a little contrarian here. And they kind of provide a little value too, just considering their leadoff hitter is, a free shortstop with a lot of speed. So I don't hate Yankees against Varland, and obviously Rizzo at home is going to be one of the primary options for us. Louis Varland allowed 19 home runs last year in AAA. It's not like, he's definitely susceptible to the big fly, and Anthony Rizzo is definitely, willing to test the waters of the bleacher creatures out there. So
100%. If we're looking also in this mid-tier range, I think Nelly Cruz gets the lefty here against Lauer. If you look at the home road splits last year for Lauer, he was really good at home, very bad on the road here. So you got him on the road against San Diego. I think there's some damage that can be done in that spot. And then we talk, if you're just kind of looking at game totals, I mean, Naylor is $4,100. If you're a believer in Cleveland stack today, you're going to take their cleanup hitter.
Yeah. So it's so tough for me because I like both first basemen for Cleveland. Josh Bell, 61, little revenge narrative, but that means I can't play Pete Alonso. And that's unfortunate because I would like to play Josh Naylor 41. I think there's a lot of upside. I would like to play Josh Bell 36. Trevor Williams can't get lefties out. That means I can't play Pete Alonso. Right. And so, if you're not playing Alonso or if you're not getting to Rizzo, I'm perfectly fine getting to either Cleveland guy. And I lump, Luke Raley in there as well with some home run equity, and Vinny Pasquantino with 3,400. But it's just really hard for me to get to any of them. Rarely, fortunately, I could play in the we could play in the outfield. Yeah. But if you're not playing Alonso, it's fine. And Cleveland they do have the highest implied total on the board.
Yep.
So
Yep, I agree with you 100% there. Donald Smith's hitting second at 29. Frankie Cordero, first base outfield eligibility for you Yankees there, $2,800 for him. Would you touch Mancini here against Syndergaard at 27?
in a Cub stack, I'm fine with it, but I think I probably wouldn't play him as a one.
All right, let's go on to second base then. Top price second baseman is they give us Mookie Betts. You can play them both outfield or second if you want. I like Gleyber Torres at $4,900. I think when you're looking at this top tier, it's Gleyber, it's Jimenez, but the chalk I think is going to be Brandon Lau, right? $4,300 against Berrios. On fire to start the year, 5 homers already, 5 homers in the last 6 games for Brandon Lau here. So $4,300. That's like your click it play for me.
Yeah, I mean, Glaber's fine. Good lineup position, hitting 5th, like lots of run producing opportunity behind. I mean, realistically, there is, unless Stanton and Judge are clearing the bases, or Rizzo. So I like Gleyber hitting 5th. I like Jimenez hitting 5th too. I mean, they hit him 7th all last year. We were like, what are we doing? Can we just like he's your second best player. Right. Like move him up. They don't. This year they give him $100 million. And now they're like, all right, hit second, hit 5th, do whatever you want. So love the power speed combination of Jimenez. But yeah, Brandon Lau is the chalk of the slate. Just the chalk batter of the slate. 4,300, is hitting a bunch of power. Last year was just a very unfortunate year for him in terms of health. The year before he hit 40 home runs. So like, or 39 home runs. I won't round up there. Hit 40 and I'll give you your respect, Brandon Lau. Yeah. But yeah, everything's clicking well. And Jose Berrios against left-handed power has been dreadful for the last year plus. So, yes, that is your chalk of the slate for sure.
There was a tweet sent out earlier today that I saw that among all active starting pitchers, guys have the most success stealing bases on Noah Syndergaard. So, Nico Hoerner is right there at $4,200. We've talked a lot about Nico Hoerner on the podcast. Stolen base machine. When this guy gets on, he's got 5 steals already on the year. $4,200 for Nico Hoerner could be pretty contrarian when everybody's playing low today for the home run, and Hoerner goes and swipes 3 bags on Thor.
This is a Nico Hoerner fan club podcast and live stream here, John. Yeah, man. I mean, there's nothing to like really dislike about it. He's gonna have protection with Swanson back in the lineup, hitting behind him too. And Swanson's been awesome. So just more, run potential for Nico Hoerner, because look, he's not gonna hit a home run. So we need him to get on base, steal, and score, and maybe do that twice, right? Like get on base, steal, score, do it again, please. But he scored 12 runs and has 5 stolen bases. Like, in large part, like, yes, the stolen bases are on him, but like Dansby Swanson hitting behind him has definitely helped him score so many runs as well. So with Dansby back in the lineup, I like it quite a bit. And you're 100% right. Literally nobody's going to click on Nico Hoerner's name except those in our fan club, which is just me and you.
And those hopefully watching here. Again, this is a tweet that was sent out earlier. I'm trying to find it so I can reference it and give the person credit. I'm struggling to find it right now. But I just saw her and I was like, ooh, Nico Hoerner here. So Noah Syndergaard has allowed the most stolen bases over to whatever period of range it was. And Nico Hoerner there, pretty solid. Maybe even a bet today. I think he was plus 130 or 40 on a stolen base. So maybe take a look on that one there today as well. Other guys down as we work our way into this value range. Anybody just jumping off for you here?
In the value tier, I've mentioned Jaquan Bay like a couple times throughout the podcast and live stream. And he is now hitting leadoff for Pittsburgh tonight. And that's probably going to continue there because they're going through their own injury stuff, especially with O'Neal Cruz. So I like Jaquan Bay. Woodford is a can. So Bay, second base outfield eligible, 3,800, really stands out. Jeff McNeil hitting 5th if you want to, kind of complete your Met stack. Another guy who doesn't really have a lot of power, but he has a ton of gap-to-gap presence. I mean, another batting title last year for McNeil. So I really like those two guys. And, that's kind of it. Like we talked about Maurice Dubois last night on the podcast, or this morning on the podcast. David Hensley is hitting in the middle of the Houston lineup, but he hasn't been great. And Martin Perez is just since last year has just been weirdly good against everybody. So it's really nobody below Jeff McNeil.
Okay, I'm with you there. We looked at the splits, and I'll just pull them up quickly here again for Caprillion. Lefties this year have just been demolishing him. And again, I understand it's been 2 starts. So you're like, oh, sample size monster here. But lefties on the year up against Caprillion hitting 360 with a 1,300 OPS. Again, is McNeil a big power guy? He isn't. But, again, Caprilion's just not getting anybody out whatsoever. So certainly could go in there. Ryan in chat wants to know our thoughts on Singer and GBPs. I mean, yeah, if you want to go up against the Atlanta Braves lineup, you certainly can. They do strike out. This is a lineup that does have some strikeout equity for starting pitchers, but they also have a lot of power. So, you certainly can. Yeah, Ryan, like we said, we talked about that to begin the show here today. Pitching isn't great. We obviously like Senga. We were okay with Nestor and Morton, but we settled in going with Sandoval. Not Pablo Sandoval, but Patrick Sandoval there in the mid-tier range. That was kind of like our guy. We also liked Waka. We thought you could go down there a little bit as well, but largely we were looking to spend up. We think there is some value we're going to come across at the starting in the positional spots that we're going to come through, and we'll put the lineup at the end of the show as well. You can kind of see how we're putting it all together. Willie wants to know if we had a pick between Senga and Sandoval today, James, how are you going?
And if we're picking on one pitcher site, I want Senga.
You want Senga?
Yeah, I mean it's just very 10-8 is very expensive. If I'm assuming that's a FanDuel question because that is an interesting range of guys. I would lean Senga, but I understand again, nobody is playing Patrick Sandoval today. $9,400 on FanDuel, he's less than 1%. Right.
Yep.
So I mean, you get a guy less than 1%, and on FanDuel he gets you a quality start. There's obviously strikeout regression in a positive manner coming his way. We've talked about the Boston lineup ad nauseum being pretty bad with who's not there. So there's definitely merit to getting to Sandoval, but 9,400 on FanDuel or 10-8 Senga, that felt like a FanDuel question. I would lean Senga, but understand.
We always talk about what's your risk aversion as well. If you're okay fading 30+% of the field, and to give you that edge, listen, Senga, the other thing we talked about, right? Only 90 pitches in those 2 starts as well. He hasn't gone deep into games if for whatever reason he is slowed out of the gate. The travel gets to him. I don't know. Oakland decides to be feisty today. Anything's possible, right?
Right.
Yeah, he might 90 pitches in 5 innings and be done. We haven't seen him go deeper. Maybe they'll let him go deeper. But he definitely needs a little bit longevity there to pay that off. And if Sandoval is going to be 5-6% rostered and gives you the same or better, then you have the edge. So it's all about your risk aversion. Senga's the better pitcher on the slate, but we do think that Sandoval has definitely some sneaky upside. Iceru wants to know Cortez or Waka. Cortez Waka. Yeah. We're fine with that. That's totally cool. If you're looking to pay off of Senga, we like Cortez tonight. So definitely workable in a GBP there as well. Let's go on over to third base here, James. We have our top guys that we like, but we were stopped in our tracks a little bit when we saw the price on Manny Machado at $4,900 going against Eric Lauer.
Yeah, and the home run, we always knew the home run was coming. He was off to a slow start, but this guy has been awesome. The ballpark shift from Baltimore to San Diego didn't impact him at all over the last couple of years. And there's just been a few times in the last probably 3 seasons we've seen Manny Machado under 5K. Mm-hmm. So last year he hit lefties extremely well. I think Jose Ramirez is the best play at this position, and that hasn't changed from this morning and last night. Mm-hmm. But man, Machado at 49 is very intriguing because it also saves you $800 off Ramirez, who's going to be popular. I think he's the most popular play positionally, probably outside of Brandon Lau. And like Naylor, he's going to be one of the
Yeah,
highest owned players, I should.
100%. I agree with you.
So like I'm perfectly fine using him, but like it's hard to ignore Machado 49, man.
I mean, yeah, and just to kind of like, we talked a lot about Machado too, like the numbers. And recently, he's been a better hitter against righties than lefties. But Eric Lauer, on the season already, 2 starts. Last start was on the it was at home against the Cardinals, 6 innings, gave up 6 runs, 4 innings, 7 hits, 2 home runs allowed. And you're just kind of looking at some of the split numbers there. And you find that this could be a pretty strong matchup for him. Now, if you're looking at BVP won't be your friend here. Lauer has some pretty decent numbers against these guys. Not a ton of sample size. Nelly Cruz actually has the best numbers against him, Juan Soto as well. But Machado's 0 for 6. But that's not a big enough sample size. That's 2 games for me to like fly off of Manny Machado here at $4,900. Mid-tier guys, Eugenio Suarez was part of the cover of our playbook today. We like righties against Gomber here. He just gets shelled. He's actually worse last year on the road than he was at home. So get some home run potential here with Suarez at $4,300. I think that's a great mid-tier price to fit into your Seattle stacks tonight against Gomber. So Suarez for me.
Yeah, he crushed lefties. I mean, Seattle is expensive, but I think they're like a very good Mets pivot. I think they're a very good Guardians pivot. That's where I think to get to Seattle, you are probably not playing Kodai Senga, and I think that's where and why the reason Kodai Senga isn't as highly rostered, because people are going to get to. I mean,
well, I'll say this: I've built a couple of lineups with Seattle stacked and Senga.
Okay,
so it's doable. I said, you have to. You can. I don't, and I said in the playbook, tonight's not a night where I think you used to play 4 or 5 guys in a lineup from the same team because of the pricing. You pick 2, and you do mini stacks, and you can fit in the pitching there. So it's definitely doable. It's just about how you want to build your own construction with your roster, and who's your gotta have it guys versus who's the guys that you're willing to spend down on. So it's kind of how I've approached lineup building. It's doable. We always say it's doable. Just about who are you willing to take the risk on. There's like 5 outfielders under $3,000 you can put in your lineup if you want, so it's certainly possible. What other third baseman are you looking at today?
None. Look, the creme de la creme is obviously at the top of the position. Chris Taylor gets a lefty. I like Justin Steele, but Chris Taylor is always good against left-handed pitching. Gunnar Henderson, 3,900. When he gets it going, we're not going to see him under 4K very much. So when he gets going, I like that. But like,
I would love to see Nolan Jones in the lineup tonight for Colorado.
Yeah, it's just also we're talking about the lefty. Even with Tommy Malone,
never know.
That's fair. I don't think Colorado has. We just got a Seattle recently. We got Seattle and Oakland since we start, and the Mets. So we haven't gotten a Colorado lineup just yet.
Lee in chat wants to know our thoughts on Alex Bregman here tonight. Again, off to a slow start for Bregman. Historically, we've liked him against left-handed pitching here. Against Martin Perez, 8 for 28, no extra base hits against Martin Perez, 250 with a 630 OPS. And again, more recently, the last couple of years, better against righties and lefties. This year against left-handed pitching, Alex Bregman 1 for 12. So, and again, that's kind of trended the same way. Last year against lefties, hit 225. In 2001, against lefties was kind of the last good year for him. So basically, the last year and a half struggling against left-handed pitching there. So, Austin Riley, another guy. Listen, we think that the Braves are always in play. Yeah. So we're perfectly okay going Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Acuna tonight for sure. We're about to touch on Vaughn Grissom if he's tonight. I like Sam Hilliard hitting 9th in that lineup, a kind of wraparound stack there. Yeah, they're always in play for me. So if you want to go Austin Riley, the power potential's there. And again, you're looking at the rostership on tonight's slate, low owned home run potential there. Certainly going to be in spot. Ryan asking about Arenado. I agree. Arenado there is fine. If you want to go ahead and stack against Oviedo tonight, perfect. This is where we come into play, like where I think mini stacks are where you can kind of find some different ways to get exposure to multiple teams. Usually when you're playing, you're stacking 4 guys, you have 1 4-team stack, maybe you have a mini stack and you have a one-off play, but you could get 3 mini stacks and exposure to the Mets and the Cardinals or the Astros or the Braves, however you want to kind of go in that direction tonight. So we don't discriminate the top of this third base position. Every single guy here
they're all elite.
Is an absolute stud. I wouldn't blink if I saw any of them in your lineup, with the exception tonight of maybe Matt Chapman. That would be the only one. I don't really want to go against Rasmussen. Contrarian play though, Toronto, they move the walls in. There's definitely some offensive upside with Toronto every time they're on the slate.
Right.
But from Machado, Riley, Arenado, Ramirez, you can play Devers against lefties if you want, even though we really like Sandoval tonight. Devers, he's hits anybody. So,
right.
All of that to me is fine tonight. Shortstop, Wander's at your top. He's $5,900. We talk a lot about Berrios. We haven't hit on too many Rays because their top guys basically are starting now. We talked on Lau. He's going to be super chalk. But now we get into Wander. We'll talk about Arozarena, Fraley. There's some guys down here as we hit the outfield and third shortstop positions if we're going up against Berrios tonight.
Yeah. So I typically like 5,900 feels good in a sense like if Wander gets on, he has a righty, he's going to steal a base. I don't look at like Wander from the left side as like the power side like he does usually when he's hitting righty. Mm-hmm. That's when he's done most of his damage with the power. So I like Wander 59 because I think there's stolen base equity. I just don't find myself getting there unless I'm using an entire stack of Tampa Bay. Like if I'm playing Tampa Bay stack, I'm fine getting there. But like I'm prioritizing other guys at this position and just in terms of spend ups in general.
Yep. Our guy Ice threw there, Chase in the chat. Do we take a shot on the Pittsburgh stack for GVP? Yeah, because it's a GVP. If you want to, go ahead. Willie, you threw out there, mentioning Castro or Bay. You've mentioned Bay a lot recently for Pittsburgh. The thing is, like, if you're stacking Pittsburgh, you have to play Brian Reynolds. It would be silly not to play Reynolds when you're playing Pittsburgh. You're not going to avoid their best hitter. So, if you want to go Bay and Reynolds, that's fine. I don't know the correlation to the lineup necessarily.
Bay is leading off, and Reynolds is hitting second.
Bay and Reynolds, like 2-man stack, that's fine. You don't want to go over the top and like over invest in Pittsburgh because that lineup isn't great. And St. Louis is a big favorite tonight, and Woodford, for as bad as he is, Pittsburgh is a lineup you can kind of pitch through at times. So that if you're multi-entering, sure. If you're playing 3 or 4 lineups, you want to throw Pittsburgh in there, get different. On the night that Pittsburgh goes off and scores 8 runs, you might win yourself a GPP. So, rarely are we going to tell you no, especially when we're talking guys that we like here. So, except maybe Oakland, I probably don't. Probably not playing Oakland here tonight. Bobby Witt Jr., like I said, I like Charlie Morton for strikeout potential. Over on PrizePicks today, James, I took the over 11.5 combined strikeouts there for Nestor Cortez and Charlie Morton. So we got 12 strikeouts between the two. We're golden. We cashed that play. Bobby Witt's starting to heat up, man. I messaged you the other day. I was like, hey, Bobby Witt's got a 120 batting average and balls in play. That is absurd. And then he's got hits in 3 straight. He stole 3 bags the other day. He was one of the Vegas favorites to lead the league in stolen bases this year before the season began. You want to spend $5,200 on Bobby Witt if you believe Kansas City's starting to pull out? Pasquantino, like we said, is $3,400, right? Like you put Pasquantino and Bobby Witt next to each other in a lineup, and there's your value to help you spend up to get a guy like Bobby Witt in that spot there. So totally cool with him. Bogart's at fine. Correa's at 49, good. But we've talked a lot about the Mets here tonight, and you got Lindor at $4,700. If you're not spending down for Grissom, I feel like Lindor is your plug at shortstop today.
Yeah, it's for me today. Shortstop is pretty easy. I'm okay with using Gwit and Torment. Um, I love Francisco Lindor. The strikeouts are obviously concerned. Caprillion has been missing bats when he's not allowing home runs, so obviously concerned. But the fly ball rate for Lindor from the left side, I think, plays in this spot. And then I agree. It's like Grissom, but I think Volpe kind of vaulted into that conversation as well for $100 cheaper leading off. We have a righty on the mound. If he reaches base, he is a threat to steal. We saw him steal the first 3 games. He was a professional baseball player this year. Things have obviously cooled off, but hits in 2 straight. When he led off the other day in Cleveland, he led off the game with a double. So
I wonder how many people now go off of Grissom to Volpe for that reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, just like for at bats in general, like Volpe is going to naturally get more at bats than Von Grisham hitting center.
Right.
So, for that reason, I think he's actually the better play. I also think Brady Singer is a better pitcher than Varland at this point. So I like Volpe. If not playing up for Lindor, I like Anthony Volpe and Von Grisham obviously as well because we like the talent we saw it last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've mainly keyed in on Lindor, and this is me just I've been on the Mets since we first saw the slate
this morning.
So
yeah, Ryan mentioning the park in Oakland not ideal. I agree, it's not ideal for power, but it's not it's not impossible to score runs there. We're mostly targeting the matchup against Caprillion here. But like I said, if you're this is where like the mini stocks come into play. If Lindor's not your guy, then you spend down, you save that money, and it allows you to play Alonso and Marte or Alonso and Nimmo, who we're going to get to, or something like that instead in a better spot and save some cash there. So any other shortstops on your radar today?
No.
Okay. Let's go to outfield where there's 1,000,001 guys over 5K. This is where most of your mini stacks will begin. There's not a guy on the screen currently showing that I wouldn't play. Acuna, Judge, Alvarez, Ohtani, Rosarena, Reynolds, Trout, Rodriguez, Tucker, Mullins, Betts. All of them for me, you can put them in a lineup. I wouldn't even blink. Rodriguez for me, obviously, is on the cover of the playbook today. I like Seattle against Gomber. He's $5,600. Probably the where I'm starting my core spend ups today at this spot, but everybody here is a stud, and they all have great matchups because, as we've talked about, pitching mostly sucks today. So you can target these top guys.
Yeah, I think Julio Rodriguez is probably our top guy. Mike Trout, I think, is firmly in play against Tanner Houck. We've kind of cooled it on the Angels, but we know Trout, Ohtani are both firmly in play. And honestly, let's just say, like, every slate checks in, Aaron Judge is going to be the most likely to hit a home run, right? I mean, the guy's coming off 60 home runs. He is number 1 odds every single day to hit a home run. Gets a rookie making his debut, or season debut. Wouldn't surprise anybody if Aaron Judge had a home run tonight in the
I agree with you. Just quickly, as we're running a little bit out of time here, we're gonna try to get a lineup built in before we end. Mid-tier guys that I'm on. I think all of Baltimore's in play. That against Clevenger here, totally fine with that. Burleson priced up to 4K now, but still hitting second. Chas McCormick leading off at $3,900. I like that one. Nimmo at 4K against Caprillion. I like that spot for him as well. Benintendi maybe a little bit more appealing now that lineup is getting a bit better for the White Sox. If you're not playing Wells today, certainly could find himself into some lineups there in that mid 4K range.
Yeah, I have little to no interest in Benintendi personally. It's fine if you want to get there. I'm mostly keying on a Nimmo of those guys. Just sure. I think there's a lot of runs. There's a lot of run equity, and we've already seen him steal 3 bases this year, which is already 3. Good wrinkle. Good healthy Nimmo is a very good baseball player.
I would agree with you. Guys under 4K, you have the Tampa Bay guys here, Raley with a lot of power. Miles Straw has that stolen base equity that we talk a lot about here. We think Cody Bellinger and the Mets or the Cubs are a little bit sneaky today. Bellinger's starting to heat up a little bit. Back-to-back games with 2 hits, home run, return to the Dodgers here. A lot of narratives in play. Certainly could see that. You said we got a Seattle lineup?
No.
Oh, okay. I wanted to know if Kelenic was going to.
Oh, we did. Sorry. He is batting 6th.
Would you play him against a lefty today at 3,100?
Mm.
Would you play him on the assumption that maybe Gomber doesn't last long in this game and a righty eventually comes in?
Yes, in both scenarios.
I mean, also, there are a few hotter hitters right now than
agreed.
So.
Agreed. And you know what? We talked about on the pod, Austin Gomber, very good against left-handed bats.
Yeah.
But
not the most ideal spot for him for sure, but he's also just kind of on fire right now. So you want to play the hot hand, play the hot hand. Under 3K, Cordero. I still like Colas here at $2,600. I think he's fine. Anybody else interest you? Hilliard, 24.
Yeah, like if you're playing a Brave stack, you could do like a wraparound, or you could just do end of lineup type of thing. Not anything that really stands out. Like if you're stacking Pittsburgh, Kanan and Jigba, 2K is fine.
All right, let's build our lineup here. We got a couple of minutes left. Again, guys, get in the Discord if you're not already. Remember, sign up, fantasyalarm.com, all pro. Promo code MLB 50% off the first 6 months. We're plugging in Kodai. We're plugging in Sandoval. We wanted to do. We going Jeffers at catcher here?
Yeah, that's fine.
For savings.
We probably save at shortstop is probably another position. I mean, I want to play Lindor, but salary probably.
We like Nimmo at 4K.
Brandon Lau. 4,300.
We wanted Julio. Let's see if we can spend up for Julio here. First base. Can we get Suarez? Can we get Eugenio? 43. So $3,700 for a first baseman and outfielder. There was certainly plenty of value. Can we get Rizzo in the lineup? Rizzo at 44, a 3K outfielder, James.
Good luck. Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie. That works. We'll go Frankie. There it is. We got a little 3-man Yankee stack. We got 2-man with Rodriguez. We got a 1-off with Nimmo. We got a 1-off with Lau. We got Sandoval and Senga as our top pitchers there. Guys, good luck to everybody this weekend here. James and I will be back on Monday. If you're not in the Discord already, we're going to be up to roster lock, answering your questions, getting you set for lineups, updating you on roster news and everything that's going on. fantasyalarm.com/all-pro. Promo code MLB50 gets you 50% off for the first 6 months. That's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months, and it gets you access to everything we have on site. Not just MLB, but NHL, NBA, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, you name it, we cover it. Covered for the first 6 months for just $20 a month. If you don't like it, cancel it after a month. Get $20 for a free try. Get in here. You got access to our premium Discord. We give you free bets of the day, PrizePicks, Underdog, everything you guys want. We're here for you. James and I will be back again on Monday. Any final words for the people at home, James?
No, everyone have a great weekend. Happy Friday, and stay safe out there.
Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you all later.